Howdy! So I wanted to make a video with some information and offer insights of what it's actually like to live in Austin, or I think Texas in general. Since I live here and I've been living here for a long time, I put together a list of 10 points of things that you have to deal with living in Texas. Hi guys, I'm Daphne Quay, your boss lady realtor here in Austin, Texas, and I work with people that are relocating to Austin from all over the world and all over the country, or thinking about selling a home in Austin. If you're thinking about making a move or selling a home, you can reach out. My contact information is in the description below. You can also set up a direct one-on-one Zoom call with me. The link to do that is also in the description below. So with that, let's get started. First point on this list, and it's kind of silly, but I think it's important to know, things will melt in your car during the hot summer months. Candy will melt, chapstick will melt, lipstick will melt, water will get hot. It's very weird, and you have to be very careful with things that you keep in your car because you don't want them to get damaged or cooked for that matter. Point number 2 is that summer break tends to be very short for school kids. Personally, I don't have a lot of kids or any kids for that matter, but I have several friends with children and a close family friend who I would consider my niece. And I've seen their summer breaks be anywhere from 6 weeks to 2 months. When I was growing up in Minnesota, I remember our summer breaks being like 3 or 3.5 months. I've also seen that a lot of school kids have a lot of breaks during the school year. I've seen fall break, which is about a week off during the fall. There is also holiday breaks. There are breaks for other holidays sprinkled throughout the year. Then there's also like spring break. Then there's also like pre-spring break that will also last a week. So it's just something to keep in mind if you've got a family. It's a lot of off time that kids have outside of school, I think, compared maybe to some other states. Random, but I thought worth sharing. So this is a huge plus. Gas in Texas, of course, is a lot cheaper than it is in other parts of the country, like California, for instance. And this is largely due to the fact that there is so much oil in Houston and in Dallas. If you visited Austin or if you visited Texas in general and noticed that our gas prices are significantly lower than they are in other parts of the country, please leave a comment. I want to know what gas prices are, where you came from, and what gas prices were when you were visiting. Point number 4 is that we have really, really crazy weather. Yes, it's really hot during the summer. It's unbearably hot, if I'm being completely honest. But we also get rain. We sometimes get freezes. We had a hailstorm during this fall. And when it rains, it's very rarely just a nice little drizzle. It's sometimes bordering on like hurricane weather. No, we're not Florida. No, we're not Houston. We don't have actual hurricanes, but the rain is really, really strong. We don't have long rainy seasons, thank goodness. But every now and then, every few years, we will have a massive downpour and some part of Austin will flood. Also, during the winter freezes that we had, there was a lot of media coverage around the fact that we didn't have electricity in a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of people didn't get water. That's a whole other video for a whole other time, but we do have very weird weather. Point number 5, I've mentioned this in tons of other videos, but I feel like people still are surprised when I tell them how high our property taxes are in Texas. I believe Texas has the 5th highest property taxes in the U.S. Though we do have something called a homestead exemption, which is supposed to prevent your property taxes from going up more than 10% each year, taxes still do go up. And there's a lot of people that don't have a homestead exemption and are kind of suffering, I would say, the consequences of it. A lot of counties keep raising property taxes and people's monthly payments keep going up. Before I get to the next point, make sure to watch all the way to the end because point number 9 is something that people don't really talk about that often. Okay, let's go. Point number 6, we have a lot of bugs in Texas. I will say we have excellent pest control, but we do have a lot of kind of quirky bugs because it is so hot here. It's bordering, I would say, on tropical climate. There's a lot of different types of spiders. Some spiders are really, really huge. I've seen praying mantises, which I personally think are just such a joy and so wonderful to watch. But the biggest offender of all are red ants. We tend to have them pretty much everywhere in Texas. And these little guys will either sting or bite you. But when they bite you, it stings like crazy. And then it itches like a mosquito bite and it hurts at the same time. So you're like scratching it. And then it turns into this big red welt. It's awful. I've known multiple people that have stepped right into a red ant pile and they will get so messed up from it. The sores that they leave will hurt for days, if not an entire week. However, to remedy all that, we have excellent pest control and it's very affordable. And you can find really great pest control companies everywhere. Point number 7, we have really terrible erratic drivers. I think part of the reason for this is that we don't typically have inclement weather. It's usually pretty dry and there's not usually a lot of like snow and ice on the road. That, along with the fact that people have to travel longer distances to get anywhere, along with very high speed limits. The majority of our highways have a speed limit of at least 70 miles per hour, but most people go 80, 85, and even then, there's still people that are passing you. If you go on our toll roads, the speed limit there is 80 miles per hour, and there's a lot of people that very easily go over 100 miles an hour. I will say on a lot of the major highways, people drive like absolute lunatics. Even on the side roads, people behave very poorly and are very aggressive. And I want to share a story with you of something that happened to my boyfriend when he was on the road. It was super weird. And for that reason, I want to present to you my boyfriend. Okay, come on, boyfriend. So this is Bobby. This is my boyfriend. And he's going to tell you a story about how he got flipped off in just a neighborhood stop sign driving his car.
Thank you. Happened to me twice. Suburban in Austin, pretty close by. And stop sign guy pulls up. I'm trying to let him go. We both come at the same stop sign. And I'm letting him go first. And I kind of flash my lights to let him go. And then he speeds off. And then as he's speeding off, he flips me off. And that happened twice.
Was it a truck?
2 trucks, yeah.
2 trucks. 1 sedan. That kind of stuff I feel like happens a lot in Austin. If you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I drive a Tesla, an electric vehicle. And I think Texas has a bit of a love-hate relationship with Tesla in particular. It's like one camp is like, Tesla, and some of them are like, no, Tesla can go right to hell. Anyway, since we've told our aggressive driving stories, I'm going to finish off this list. Bobby's going to stay here for moral support. Point number 8 on this list is that there really isn't as much live music in Austin as there used to be anymore. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's not, you can't go to a concert. I mean, most of the concert venues are probably large venues. There's not any kind of small venue or just going somewhere where you can just listen to live music. There's some areas that you can do that, but it's not, it's not something you can look up easily and find.
I feel like you really have to look it up.
Yeah.
It's rare that you just walk into somewhere and there's live music. It does happen, but it's just not as prevalent as it used to be. Even though the music scene is not what it used to be, our comedy scene in Austin has absolutely exploded over the last few years, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. There's a lot of comedy spots, and you can find almost a show every single night.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know you could find a show every night. After making this video, I realized that I forgot to mention something that I think is really important and really cool. So we were talking about the comedy scene in Austin and how it's growing so much. I actually ended up throwing a stand-up party at my house last year where we had 5 local comedians come and perform. One of my good girlfriends and I set up the stage, we set up the chairs, we got a bunch of people to come, we had a DJ, we had food. I mean, it was like a whole event, and people, of course, were really happy to come and see the comedians, and also the comedians were so cool. They hung out with us afterwards. Some of them hung out with us beforehand, and they were, of course, watching their co-workers, their co-comedians, I think is the correct term. But it was really cool. And I see these types of events actually continuing to happen throughout Austin. I've had a bunch of friends who have also thrown stand-up comedy parties at their own homes as well. So that goes to show that there's demand for comedy. Comedians are willing to work wherever there is demand and appreciation for comedy. Okay, back to the video. So next point 9, we've made it to almost the end of the video. Thank you for watching this far. And if you've watched this far, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you get notified every time that I do a video like this one. Speaking of comedy, not really, but point number 9, people in Austin are actually really friendly. Even though there's been a lot of changes over the last 15 years or so, I think one of the things that has really held is the fact that people are friendly, very welcoming, pretty open-minded, I would say. And that's been something that has been nice to see, at least, that even though there is a lot of change going on, people are still generally the same.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I come from a city a little further up north. I won't name what it is.
It's called Dallas.
But the people there, you can definitely strike a conversation on the street here. People are super friendly with you, and good vibes.
Yeah.
Versus some other places.
Not so much in Dallas. So on the note about friendly people, I also want to share a story with you about my mom. So for that, I'm just kidding. Bobby's just going to stay here. My mom's not here. One time my mom was visiting from Minneapolis here in Austin for the holidays. We stopped at Sprouts Market, which is a little grocery store. They kind of have them throughout the country. And we just went to get some stuff for a Christmas dinner. And they were selling these little sage, I don't know if they were sage, some herb, a little Christmas tree. It was like this big. And she thought they were super cute. As we were leaving the store, I was pushing the grocery cart. And there was a woman walking a little bit behind us with one of these cute little Christmas trees that she had just bought. And my mom kind of turns over and she's like, oh my God, her little Christmas tree is so cute. I was like, yeah, it is, isn't it? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, you can tell her. She's like, no, I don't want to bother her. I'm like, you can tell her. People talk here. It's absolutely fine. And she was like, oh, okay. So my mother disappeared. I went to the car. I unloaded the groceries. I closed the trunk. And as I turned around, my mother's standing there with this huge smile on her face with a little Christmas tree. She's like, I started talking to the lady, and she's my new best friend, Daphne, and she gave me the Christmas tree. And it was so silly and also so very Austin because people are so friendly here and so willing to chit-chat. Point number 10 on this list is overall cost of living. Though property values are still higher than they are in other parts of the country, I think in general we have a lower cost of living than many other places. Like I mentioned, gas is less expensive here. We also have a lot of grocery stores that have really fresh, really high quality produce at a very good price. One of my past clients, now friend, relocated from the Bay Area a couple of years ago. And every time he and his girlfriend, or I guess like fiance now, they go out, he's like, oh my God, we just had this Wagyu steak, Daphne, and it was only $80. In San Francisco, it would have been $4,027. I can't believe it. So I feel like I hear stuff like that a lot from him and then other clients as well. I think in general, the cost of living in Texas is just lower than other states. So those are my 10 points that you need to know as someone's who live in Austin, Texas, or like I said, Texas in general. If you're thinking about relocating here, these are things to keep in mind. And on that note, if you are thinking of relocating here and buying a home, you can reach out. You can set up a direct one-on-one Zoom call with me so we can have a consultation and talk about your needs, desires, and hopes for a future home purchase. Just follow the link in the description below. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. I'm Daphne Quaid, your boss lady realtor, and this is Bobby, my boyfriend. Till next time.